You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome back to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. We're back, ready or not. No, I still haven't caught up on enough sleep, although I certainly tried my best. I hope your summer break was good, despite being somewhat apoplectic if, like me, you stayed in touch with the news. But now we're ready to plunge into those crucial Rescue the Republic midterm elections, the news that didn't get covered, and our take on the news that did, plus the most interesting guests ever, authors of must-read books, activists and organizers and entrepreneurs and artists, beautiful troublemakers who are well-known and not yet well-known, who are quietly or noisily bent on saving the world. For our season premiere, White House correspondent for American Urban Radio Network's April Ryan returns to the program as my guest. Intrepid as ever, she has a new book out, and she's full of the real stories inside this White House's press room. And we have such a crowded Surrealism Corner that all the surrealisms can barely fit. Last, of course, there will be fighting words. But before all of that, we begin, as always, by going inside the headlines. Let's catch up via some statistics, rapid fire. The New York Times reported that researchers now estimate PTSD affects up to 20% of combat soldiers and 40% of rape survivors. The Emmys are upon us, and the Women's Media Center has released an important new analysis. Men received 70% of the non-acting nominations in the 2018 Primetime Awards, directing, producing, writing, and editing. You can check out the full comprehensive report at womensmediacenter.com. 40% of women in the fast food industry have experienced unwanted sexual behaviors on the job, including 28% who experienced multiple forms of harassment. On September 18th, workers in the Fight for 15 movement, that is, minimum wage, will lead a historic nationwide strike to protest the failure of companies like McDonald's to address widespread sexual harassment. The strike has support from the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund and will take place at McDonald's outlets in cities where charges were filed with the EEOC about sexual harassment: Chicago, Detroit, Durham, Kansas City, Missouri, Los Angeles, Miami, New Orleans, Orlando, and St. Louis. McDonald's workers will walk off their jobs in what is believed to be the first ever strike protesting sexual harassment. If you're in one of the cities, go by and maybe give them a bit of support. There's a McDonald's commercial on TV that drives me bananas about a pleasant young black guy working at McDonald's who gets a letter accepting him to college, thanks to the McDonald's program encouraging college applications while in what they characterize as, quote, the best first job for anyone, close quote. Other workers crowd around him with congratulations. They include an elderly African-American woman applauding his success. This is decidedly not her first or best job. While we're on acts of sexual aggression, additional items. It got little coverage, but Cadian Noble, a British actress, has filed a civil claim of sex trafficking against Harvey Weinstein, and in August a U.S. court decided to permit the claim to proceed. This, too, is a first. Previously, the Trafficking Victims Protection Act has been deployed against pimps who use extreme violence against girls and women to force them into formal systems of prostitution. Noble charges that Weinstein's alleged acts included exchanging his assurances of promoting her career for a sex act, making the sex forced on her commercial in nature. Meanwhile, Education Secretary Betsy DeVos is charging ahead with new rules narrowing the definition of sexual harassment and lessening the responsibility of school administrations and accused perpetrators, while making it more difficult for survivors to obtain justice. Campuses are afire over this, and female students have begun demonstrating at the University of Southern California, Michigan State, and Ohio State, all of which have grappled recently with allegations of sexual misconduct. There are almost no words to describe the obscenities enumerated in the grand jury report on sex abuse in the Pennsylvania Catholic Church, a nearly 900-page report that broke in August, investigating abuse in 6 dioceses involving more than 300 abusive priests and 1,000-plus victims. This did get wide coverage, but few people read the actual report. I did, and while I'll spare you some of the most appalling parts, I have to tell you that the grand jury reported one case where a priest raped a 7-year-old girl while visiting her in the hospital after she had her tonsils out. Another made a 9-year-old boy perform oral sex on him, then, quote, rinsed out the boy's mouth with holy water to purify him, close quote. Still another admitted molesting boys, but denied reports from 2 girls who had been abused. They don't have a penis, he explained. One priest quit after years of child abuse complaints about him, but asked for and received a letter of reference for his next job at Walt Disney World. And one case that makes me incoherent with rage. A priest raped a girl, got her pregnant, and arranged an abortion. The bishop expressed his feelings in a letter, writing, quote, "This is a very difficult time in your life, and I realize how upset you are. I, too, share your grief." Close quote. The letter was not for the girl. It was addressed to the rapist. Back to some numbers. On August 16th, more than 350 newspapers across the United States published individual but coordinated editorial responses to Trump's repeated attacks on the media in a historic demonstration of support for freedom of the press, suggested by the Boston Globe, where security against death threats is now a standard necessity. The action included every major newspaper in the country and, most movingly, brave small-town weekly papers in bright red states. Around the same time, Alex Jones of infamous InfoWars and conspiracy theories and huckster of survivalist products claimed that his recent banishment from internet platforms like Facebook and YouTube would backfire and merely gain him strength. On the contrary, InfoWars averaged 1.4 million visits and views before the bans, but only 750,000 in the weeks after. And now Twitter has dumped him too. And here's another first. Nancy Pelosi, former Speaker of the House, finally got on the cover of Time magazine for being attacked by Republicans over her efficiency as minority leader and attacked by Young Turks in her own party for being, well, old. Pelosi wryly said back in 2014, quote, "I was never on the cover of Time, even though I was the first woman Speaker of the House. Isn't that a curiosity? That the Republicans win and Boehner's on the front of Time magazine, Mitch McConnell wins and he's on the front of Time magazine. Is there a pattern here? As a woman, it's like, is there a message here? Is there something that we're missing?" Close quote. One more U.S. item before we go abroad for more news. The points unfairly lost by tennis player Alizé Cornet and champion Serena Williams at the U.S. Open have not been in vain. The Open had to apologize to Cornet over penalizing her for changing her sweat-drenched shirt courtside, as men do all the time. And Serena can comfort herself that the U.S. Tennis Association is reviewing its policies over sexism, regarding her scrap with the umpire that cost her an entire game, and the win, when male tennis players have admittedly said and done far worse on court with no penalties. Williams' ringing feminist statements on behalf of all women and on behalf of her own newborn daughter brought mixed praise and criticism from Martina, but unadulterated kudos from Billie Jean. Internationally, well, Argentina rejected legalizing abortion by 38 to 31 legislative votes with 2 abstentions, but the activists there, now well organized, vowed to fight on. New Zealand granted victims of domestic violence paid leave from work, which will give women time to move out and seek shelter for themselves and their children without losing their jobs. The measure, known as the Domestic Violence Victims Protection Bill, takes effect next April, making New Zealand the second country in the world to pass such legislation after the Philippines. In the Philippines, women's rights groups protested President Duterte's odious return to rape jokes after he made a flip comment that rape was inevitable so long as there were beautiful women. But in the good news department, India's Supreme Court unanimously struck down one of the world's oldest bans on consensual gay sex, overthrowing a law that was one of the last vestiges of India's colonial past. Scotland has become the first country in the world to pledge free female sanitary products at schools and universities across the country, so pads and tampons will be available without cost to the country's 395,000 students. And in Nepal, girls are mobilizing to use a new law to resist menstrual banishment. As we've reported in the past, girls in villages are isolated from the family during their periods and made to live in small huts and even animal pens, where they have been raped and died from freezing cold, asphyxiation, and snake bites. Now, since August 17th, anyone who forces a girl or woman into that practice will be liable for a fine or up to 3 months in jail. And finally, Harper Nielsen, a 9-year-old girl in Australia, has stirred up a social media storm by refusing to sing the national anthem. Harper claims the song ignores the nation's indigenous people, thus invoking rage from the right wing, dismissal as a silly protest from the center, and praise from feminists, the left, the young, and the Aboriginal community. Australia is the only Commonwealth country that does not have a treaty with its indigenous populations. We have to take a short break now, but I'll be right back with my guest for this week and with Fighting Words, and coming right up, the Surrealism Corner. So don't go away. Subscribe to this program on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. Follow us on Twitter at WMC Live, like our Facebook page at facebook.com/WMC Live, and visit us at WMCLive.com for more information about our show and our guests.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome back, and let's leap right into the Surrealism Corner. Politics first, then other surreal stuff. While there's a record number of Democratic women running for the House this year, about a third of all Democratic candidates, only about 14% of Republican House candidates are female. For one thing, the GOP is slower to support women in running. Carla Nelson, running for an open house seat in southern Minnesota, says, quote, "All the good old boys begged me not to run," close quote. This is against her opponent, Jim Hagedorn, who has a trail of blog posts derogating women. Nice, self-destructive move, Republican guys. And here's something to think about if you find yourself depressed about infighting among Democrats. It turns out that factionalism is rife in the coalition of neo-Confederate, white supremacist, neo-Nazi, and internet-savvy white identitarians. So much so that the much-hyped summer rally in Washington, D.C. to unite the right drew less than a humiliating, hilarious 50 people, while a counter-demonstration numbered in the thousands. Ultra-right-wing disagreements range from some arguing that they should be more welcoming to Nazis, to those who feel they ought to form book clubs and position themselves in the realm of the, quote, hip, cool, sexy, and fun, close quote. Good luck with that, boys. Meanwhile, tisk tisk, ordinary right-wingers apparently can't even count on the family anymore. Bobby Goodlatte, the son of Congressman Robert Goodlatte, donated the maximum amount to Jennifer Lewis, a Democrat running a long-shot campaign to take his father's open seat in rural Virginia. The son stated, quote, I'm deeply embarrassed that FBI agent and senior counterintelligence officer Peter Strzok's career was ruined for his criticism of Donald Trump, ruined by my father's political grandstanding on the Judiciary Committee, close quote. And in a reverse generational story, Stephen Miller, that scary young hardline architect of Trump's immigration agenda, the one who proclaimed that Trump has, in effect, absolute power and cannot be questioned, well, Stephen's the nephew of one Dr. David S. Glosser, who has now gone public announcing, quote, I have watched with dismay and increasing horror as my nephew, an educated man who is well aware of his heritage, has become the architect of immigration policies that repudiate the very foundation of our family's life in this country. Close quote. Dr. Glasser related the story in detail of their ancestor, who arrived in Ellis Island in 1903, fleeing persecution and enforced conscription in Eastern Europe. Take that, focus on the family. It seems that values can be thicker than blood. Speaking of values, here are two coincidentally parallel, unrelated stories that definitely qualify as surreal. Possibly the funniest single headline I have ever read ran in the Washington Post on September 12th, quote, Novelist who wrote about how to murder your husband charged with murdering her husband, close quote. The story described Nancy Crampton Brophy, a 68-year-old Portland, Oregon-based romance novelist who wrote books about relationships that went wrong and about women fleeing abusive husbands or fantasizing about killing those husbands. Well, on September 5th, she was arrested on charges of murdering her spouse, and as yet has not filed a plea, nor have the police as yet announced a motive. Then again, consider her publishing history. You better take us writers seriously. And consider the context of our times and places. Because in Lewiston, Maine, Kimberly Darby was recently murdered in broad daylight at her laundromat, and the accused, Albert Flick, was of an age at which even hardened wrongdoers tend to, as they put it, age out of crime. He was 76. The fact that Flick had murdered his wife nearly 40 years earlier might have been factored into the judge's decision, along with evidence that after he was released after 21 years in prison for killing his wife, he then assaulted or threatened women on 3 separate occasions between 2007 and 2014. The prosecutor then pronounced him a danger to women and society, but Judge Robert Crowley said that Flick had aged out of violent crimes. Well, it seems you're never too old to kill women, and Albert Flick has proved that yet again. Patriarchy is reliably consistent from death to birth. Dr. Donald Klein, who ran a fertility clinic in the Indianapolis area during the 1970s and 80s, treated many couples, but what they didn't know was that he was not using the sperm of anonymous donors. He was using his own. Now his former patients and their children are understandably rather upset and pressing him as to how many children did he father, why and who and where are they. So far they've discovered 36 half-siblings, and they expect the numbers to grow. Klein first denied, then finally acknowledged that he did in fact use his own sperm. But the case against him has been complicated since there is no Indiana state law that would criminalize his acts. Time to look abroad, where things are also pretty weird. Thailand is confronting a crisis about Buddhist monks: obesity. The Public Health Department has urged lay people to offer healthier alms to monks who roam the streets collecting their meals in their little bowls. The Health Department has suggested that monks add more physical activity, like cleaning their temples, instead of assuming that Buddhist nuns will do it. Add this activity to their sedentary lives of prayer and meditation. 1 in 3 Thai men are obese, and the monks are at the forefront of the problem. One major culprit is sugary drinks. It seems that people are giving the monks soft drinks and boxed juices, sweet snacks, and other fatty store-bought food packed with MSG and low in protein and fiber, and the monks are now really into junk food. Some monks told researchers that they hadn't realized they were putting on weight because of their loose-fitting robes. In a country that's 90% Buddhist, Thai monks are revered as ascetics, and pointing out their weaknesses, which have recently also included sex and corruption scandals, can be politically tricky, but definitely enlightening. A persistent, tricky matter in Paris has been the problem of men urinating openly in the streets, despite public urinals built back in the 1830s. So city government thought it had the solution: eco-toilets installed on the street, looking a little like a rectangular metal trash can with a small section that protrudes from the sides, shielding men as they take aim. Not that men have been using the eco-toilets much, apparently preferring hydrants, gutters, trees in full view of passers-by. After all, c'est tradition. But women, unsurprisingly, have been quite incensed. Feminist groups have noted that the city was unfazed about putting open urinals in the middle of the street, but when a woman gives her breast to her nursing infant in public, she's criticized. Parisian women note that women can't use these public urinals, but then again, neither did women just pee in the streets, and why couldn't men simply have some self-discipline? At last report, some feminist groups were taking matters into their own hands, protesting the new Uri trottoir by discreetly pouring quick-hardening powdered cement down their eco-toilet pipes. You go, girls, or rather, you don't. And men shouldn't either, at least not publicly. New Zealand young women politicians are really hearty types. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, as we reported here, recently gave birth and then went back to work, while her non-married partner took on the full-time job of house husband. Now, Julie Ann Genter, Minister for Women and Associate Minister for Health and Transport, age 38, posted on social media that she had bicycled to the hospital while in labor because there was, open quote, not enough room in the car for the support crew, close quote. She modestly reassured her followers that the trip was mostly downhill. And last, on those days when you're feeling bloated and cranky, you can now comfort yourself with the knowledge that beluga whales and narwhals go through menopause, too. Most people with ovaries go through menopause, but most animals don't. Their reproductive organs last as long as they do, but we and whales are different. A group of scientists from the universities of Exeter and York in the journal Scientific Reports broke the news in August, bringing the total species number to 5. These 2 whales plus killer whales, short-fin pilot whales, and us. No non-human primates go through menopause. Eventually, I'm sure, more studies will be done, but for now, everyone agrees that you do not want to mess with a killer whale having hot flashes. surreal. It's time for another brief pause, and then my guest, White House correspondent April Ryan, will join me. So, if you've been wondering just what kind of personal toll this White House's attacks on the press exacts, and wondering what it's really like inside those appalling press conferences, well, hang on. I'll return with April in just a minute. The Women's Media Center, founded in 2005 by Jane Fonda, Gloria Steinem, and myself, is a progressive, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization working to make women visible and powerful in media. You can learn more about the WMC at womensmediacenter.com.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome back again. April Ryan is a triple threat. She's a woman, she's a black woman, she's a black woman journalist with a fierce commitment to getting the real story, to getting at the truth. She's a 30-year journalism veteran and has been the White House correspondent for AURN, that's American Urban Radio Networks, since January of 1997, covering 3 presidents. She's also the author of the best-selling book, The Presidency in Black and White, My Up-Close View of 3 Presidents and Race in America. In 2017, she joined CNN as a political analyst. That same year, the National Association of Black Journalists named Ryan the Journalist of the Year. And also in 2017, she was celebrated for her work by being presented with the Women's Media Center and She Persisted Award. It's my great pleasure to welcome back to Women's Media Center Live, April Ryan. April, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Robin.
Oh, congratulations. You have a new book and you've survived yet another span of the Trump press room. That's a double congratulations. Let's start.
Well, it's not over yet. But
No, that's right. No, it's just I think we celebrate surviving each day as it comes. Let's start with the book. It's called Under Fire, an accurate title, Reporting from the Front Lines of the Trump White House. And of course, the last time you were on, we were talking about one of your previous books, Uncovering 3 Presidents. Covering Presidents While Black and Female in the White House should have been its title.
How about that?
You know.
You're absolutely right.
And now there's Under Fire.
Yeah, we've been hearing a lot of praise about it. People are like sitting and reading it in one fell swoop. You know, I was hearing on Labor Day, people were getting the book and they were so happy to get it, and they just sat and read it. And we're getting a lot of praise for it. It's gotten great reviews. But the sad thing about it is I'm telling you the story of what's happened to me and how it happened, how it started.
Yeah.
And the fact that the residue still lingers is some of the people who were involved are gone.
Yeah.
It's about heaping hate and war on the press, particularly me, from my vantage point. I have this unique vantage point because I'm questioning things, questioning some of the actions, some of the things that are said, like, taking the knee.
Yeah.
The president wanted to say that the knee was about the anthem, the soldiers, and that's not what it's about.
No.
And I asked, the president, if he was a racist, because you heard a lot of black leaders saying he was.
And a few smart whites here and there asking also.
Yes. And it wasn't just black people, but I mean the black voices were bubbling up to the surface more so at first.
Of course.
And I asked the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, because people were throwing that is a serious word to throw at anyone.
Yeah.
I said, what is the definition of race? And they said the intersection or the meeting of prejudice and power.
Uh-huh.
There you have it.
Hello.
So I asked the president, "Are you a racist?" He chose not to answer.
Yeah.
And when he didn't answer, I'll never forget that day. Daryl Scott, the same one that says all these provocative things, in the room with the president, like he's the best president ever, and all that stuff, and we've never seen a president for black people like this, and talking about how Chicago gangs love him, and now Obama.
Oh,
that
give me
same
a
Daryl
break.
Scott tried to throw water on me in that room. After I asked that, and he's a minion of the president who was introduced to the president by guess who? Michael Cohen. Hello.
Oh my God!
So the plot thickens.
The plot thickens.
Thickens.
It's amazing because, to put it very simply, you ask the real questions that all of us want to ask. And that is obviously the African American community, but it's also people in every other kind of community. It's feminists, it's the disabled, it's the poor, it's the gay and lesbian community, it's all of those communities, and it's the other communities of color, all those communities whose concerns do not rise in most of the questions that are posed by what I call pale males, even the best of them who have now finally woken up to the fact that this is a tragic and terrifying situation we have. So the press is finally flexing its muscles, thank God. But you've been out there flexing all along, and you're still not tired. And I understand that Sarah, from the book, Sarah Huckabee Sanders tried to make up with you by baking you a pie. Oh my God, April!
Well, she baked everyone a pie, but she baked those pies. But the pie that was in the picture on Twitter was not the pie that she baked, because we had dinner together when we tried to do a reset. She said, "I baked a pie." So this book gets into a lot of things, and I even in the book said sometimes, I felt like taking the knee in the briefing room.
Yeah.
Because the way the war was heaped on me for no reason for asking questions.
Yeah.
And it's not about not being patriotic. It's about just spotlighting the disdain that they have for me on a member of the press who's part of the First Amendment, part of the pillars of this nation.
You were doing your job. That's
my job. And that's the reason why I stay. I'm doing nothing wrong.
No.
I'm asking questions that are supposed to be asked. And I've done nothing wrong. And that is the wind beneath my wings.
Yeah.
That I am not doing anything wrong. And for someone who's been here for 21 years to be made a target, the weekend of Charlottesville.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
I was receiving the NABJ Journalist of the Year Award. And then that's the weekend that the campaign put me on an ad along with other people. I was the only White House correspondent. Yeah. I'm in an ad about the people who want to thwart the president. I'm not trying to thwart anything. I'm asking a question. Yeah. But they put a target on my head that weekend of Charlottesville.
Yeah, I know.
And that's when I knew it was real.
Yeah. No.
And it was.
And you've had to hire a bodyguard.
Yes. Robin, I have had to take steps to keep myself
alive.
Safe. Alive, yeah. And there is collateral damage for the stuff that they're saying and doing.
Of course there is.
There is.
Of course there is.
And, it's just terrible. It is terrible. Yeah. It is terrible.
Well, it's an attack at the very foundations of this country. And among those foundations, front and center, is a free press. Chuck Todd finally came to the front and with an interesting piece just out in The Atlantic. I don't know if you've seen it. And he talks about the support that journalists have to give other journalists, which is also very true. And he pegs Fox News as the odious center of creating this climate, even before.
It's not just Fox.
Even
Fox
before
is doing
Trump.
The bidding.
Yeah, that's
Fox
right.
is doing the bidding of the president, because many of them, and that there is a conflict of interest here.
Yeah.
You are talking to the president, making the news, and you're part of the news, instead of stepping back, reporting on the news.
Right.
You are crafting the news, which is wrong. So Fox News, they are part of the problem. I have said that on Twitter.
Yeah.
I've gone after them, but when they come after me for no reason, they've stopped because they've seen every time they go after me, my book sales go up.
Yeah, right.
So even in pre-order,
good.
Fox News wanted to make me this target.
Oh, sure.
But they realized they looked back because they were going after me for no reason, and they look crazy.
Yeah.
And the president, I don't know, the president tells Sarah, tells Sean, and anybody else, I don't like her, do this, do that. But you know what? It's a bad look for a president of the United States. You know, you got people out here like Bob Woodward doing a book talking about how he is or what's happening.
Yeah.
It's childish. It's bullying.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, you know, I was asked the other day about Michelle Obama's comments, when they go low, we go high.
Right.
I am in total agreement with that. But guess what? When it continues to happen, when it continues to happen, and they're playing these games with you, what I say is sometimes you got to meet them where they are and show them that you can play the game that they play. This is not the decorum that we're used to, the political
this
decorum.
is not
this is
normal.
Street gutter politics.
Yeah, it is. It is not normal. April, tell me something. Are you getting any support from other journalists, either in the White House press corps along with you or outside of it?
I'm getting support. I get people like you. I mean, I get support. I get well wishes. I've had people on Facebook saying, you know, they better not mess with April Ryan, or there's an April Ryan army out there, and I'm so grateful for it. I don't deserve it, but I'm so thankful for it.
Of course you deserve it. Women's Media Center honored you with a special award at the gala last year.
That was one of the most, if it wasn't the most, it was one of the most amazing moments of my life.
Oh, honey,
and
I'm
I write
so
about
glad.
it in the book.
Yes,
Robin,
yes.
I write about it in the book.
Yes, you do.
So,
yes,
I write about that in the book, and I was talking about how I saw Hillary Clinton that night.
That's
and I told her how she walked. She was an example for me, and how she walked, because she showed me trying to be a woman of grace and stature sometimes can get you in trouble with people like this.
Yeah.
Because she said, if I had gone and did exactly what they said, I know what people would have said. I said, but you couldn't, but I can.
Yes.
And, you know, she praised me for my grace under fire.
Yes.
But I said, I watched them label you, and it stuck. I said, they're not going to do that to me.
Yes.
I said, I'm not going to do that. But she was a hero because she's still fighting.
Oh, she's remarkable and just incredible.
And it's not about politics. It's not about policy. It's about the fact that these people, even in the midst of the craziness that they've got going on, they want to just deflect and throw back on her. I mean, it's got to stop.
Yeah.
And there are people who have to think critically and keep moving. The reason why I wrote this book is to expose everything. And that media center moment that night, I needed that. I was still in the lowest part of my life. And Hillary Clinton, and I told her that night, when she got out there talking about me and Maxine Waters after Sean Spicer told me to stop shaking my head,
That's right.
that gave me wind.
Oh,
I mean, it was amazing.
Well, you deserve every bubble of wind under your wings. You really do, April. I mean, you know, periodically, whenever I can, and particularly if it's a heavy news day, I tune in. It's just so painful. Poor dear. I mean, it's so painful to watch her looking pained, giving these robot answers. I've said that. He said that. It's fine. All's well. Nothing. Never mind. But whenever I do, there you are, and it is absolutely amazing and unerring, because you do really hold up the flag of journalism, and of course you take a huge amount of incoming fire for that and deserve support for that. Talk more about the book. I mean, it's like being inside the press room itself. So it's really fun.
It is in the press room. And if you look at the picture, I'm raising my hand by myself, because a lot of times I'm out there on a limb by myself in that room.
Yes, you
they don't want to call on me, or they call on me and they call me names. You know, I've been the example. I've been set as the example. So that is one of the reasons why I'm in that room by myself, raising my hand.
Yeah.
The book gives you an understanding as to the things that I report on that they don't like.
Yep.
And it's the simple stuff that they get upset about, be it the knee, be it Frederica Wilson with the lieutenant that died, Lieutenant Johnson, who died overseas.
That's right.
In Nigeria.
Yeah. In Niger.
Niger. Yeah, I'm
that's
sorry.
Right. That's right.
Nigeria,
and then he insulted the widow and the congresswoman.
Yes,
that's
and
right.
I talk in great detail about that, because Congresswoman Frederica Wilson gives an accounting of what happened.
Yes.
And how she felt it was very racial. And, you know, some things that we don't even, for instance, you know, when she was saying they were wondering if the body was all intact in the casket.
Yeah.
Well, not long ago, they received his teeth.
Oh, God.
And those are the kinds of things that we are reporting, that I'm asking questions about. People are saying you're trying to stir the pot. Well, there's a reason to ask these questions.
Yeah, no, it's not arbitrary what you're doing. I mean,
No, it's not.
You're being a real reporter, April, and
right.
And frankly, the book reads like a real reporter wrote it.
Here's the thing: people say it sounds like it reads like a novel, but it's so true. You would think. I mean, you could not imagine this. What happened in Niger? What happened in Charlottesville? And the reaction after? Yeah. How John Kelly went after Frederica Wilson? Yeah. How the president had that call trying to say they were listening in? No, the master sergeant put it on speakerphone for everyone in the car to hear. Yeah. Not only that, what happened in Charlottesville? The president couldn't get it right. He hit 5 or 6 or 7 times. Had to come back, and if he was on point with his teleprompter, we were like, "Ooh, that was okay." But if he didn't have a teleprompter, we were like, "Oh my God, the world's going to come to an end."
That's right.
It was just that tough,
Where do you think we're going? I mean, we obviously are holding our breath for Mueller, and we obviously are holding our breath for November in the elections. And I think Mueller will drop many more shoes, and I think that the elections will take back at least the House, although I ain't counting on it. I mean, I'm holding my breath there too. So what do you think? We've got a constitutional crisis coming up?
Oh, we're in a constitutional crisis.
Okay.
The problem is a lot of people, a large portion of America doesn't realize it.
Yeah. Already here.
We are in a national security crisis. We're in a constitutional crisis. There are crises all over the place.
Yeah.
Landmines everywhere. We've just been able to navigate and steer away from them right now at this moment. As it relates to journalism, the late John McCain was absolutely right. If you suppress or oppress the press, there begins a dictatorship.
That's right.
And this is one of the reasons why this book was written, is because people need to understand what's happening. You see just a glimpse of it every day or every other day, or how many days Sarah decides to
breathe. But it's going on all the time.
Those few minutes a day. Right. But I'm taking you behind the scenes and letting you know how it started, what's going on from my unique perch.
Yeah.
I'm giving you truth, and I've got receipts. I don't have video or audio tapes, but I've got receipts in the book.
Oh yeah. It does read like a novel in that you just can't put it down. I'm really so grateful to you for somehow finding the time amid taking fire incoming, finding the time to write the book and give us the book. Again,
this book almost killed me this time. I mean, trying to do it, I didn't take off. I was writing through my pain.
Oh my God!
And trying not to let pain show. I was trying to write, be clear. It was hard. I tried to take the emotion out of it and just give you fact, and I think I did. I told you the stories.
You told us the story. That's right. But you also told it not so much with emotion, but with a passion for what this country could and should be. And that is profoundly moving, April. It really is. The book is called...
I still have hope.
Under Fire. When I talk to you, so do I. It's called Under Fire, Reporting from the Front Lines of the Trump White House, with a foreword by Tamron Hall. And, of course, we've had the honor of speaking with the White House reporter for American Urban Radio Networks, who herself is a famous and award-winning, and including from the Women's Media Center, reporter, the great April Ryan. Thank you again, April, for being with us. And if we may, we'll come back to you as often as we can.
Oh, please do.
Get the real story.
Yes, Robin. Thank you so much.
You take care of yourself. You're a national resource.
Oh, thank you, Robin. You're awesome. I appreciate you so much, and so are you.
We have to take one final break, but I'll return directly with some fighting words.
For the smartest talk about news, politics, sex, books, religion, race, and more, it's Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan. Audacious, witty, provocative, informative, and fun. It's Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan. Talk radio with a brain.
And we're back again with some fighting words. hiatus always fills me with a kind of obsessive anxiety, as if I could possibly catch up with everything missed in the interim, as if I were bleeding words. But catching up is impossible, and it was a summer dense with news. So today I never got to the 416 children still separated from their mothers who were swallowed up at the border. Never got to mention the climate change intensified West Coast wildfires and the East Coast hurricanes, or North Korea or Venezuela. Never touched on the Kavanaugh hearings or the Woodward book or the anonymous op-ed letter from inside the White House. Never got to mention the summer-long resistance outside the White House, led by women and girls. People registering voters, canvassing, volunteering, running for office, first-time ever activists. Like Julia Fall, 28, first-timer who won a primary over an opponent who'd been mayor of their town since Julia was born. The town is Lambertville, New Jersey, and Julia and her spouse, Carrie Osmond, 31, Julia's campaign manager, they have a welcome mat at their front door that reads, "The Patriarchy." So you have to step on it, says Julia, before you can come into our home. Lambert is a heavily Democratic town, so this delightful young lesbian feminist woman is very likely to be its next mayor. I didn't get to mention the women who bring their children to demonstrations outside ICE offices and schedule playdate protests, or the pop-up demonstrations that have become a global phenomenon, or individuals like Rebecca Bell Wilson, 43, mother of 3 kids and a management consultant in Dallas, who started a GoFundMe campaign that raised $5,000 in a few days to help people at the border. She and 2 other Dallas mothers then drove 9 hours to McAllen to help families just released from detention centers to shower, eat, and rest before being bussed elsewhere. She plans to return every few weeks. Good people, so-called ordinary people, Americans who understand that they are citizens of the world. So instead, I'll settle for summing up August with a few words about 2 funerals. The whole country watched at least some, if not all, of both. You couldn't miss McCain's. It went on for days, his final third finger in the air to Trump. Personally, I myself was never that impressed by McCain's being such a maverick, since he refused to challenge Confederacy statuary, ran opportunistically as anti-choice, and offered us Sarah Palin, who would have been 1 heartbeat away from the presidency and who actually paved the way for Trump. I don't ask for perfection in my politicians or in anyone, but McCain was not only deeply conservative, he was repeatedly willing to sacrifice principle for ambition. What did make him different was his willingness afterward to admit when he'd been wrong, but then he would make the same kind of mistake again. Still, I was fascinated by the message in the spectacle of his passing. Everywhere military pallbearers and guards at attention, mostly male and white, but with a few tokens. Flags at half-mast, despite Trump. The flyover formation with a single plane peeling off. Marching, salutes, taps, presenting arms, and finally burial at the Naval Academy. McCain had lain in state at the Senate and been lauded by 2 presidents at the National Cathedral, which was packed with D.C. political heavies, most of whom detested him and loathed each other, all hypocritically acting collegial, feigning loss, and babbling unity. His genuinely pained family somehow got through it all. There were even some moving moments, made more so by Trump's vulgar presence being banned. McCain's send-off was exactly what he planned it to be, a celebration of male-defined honor, heroism, brothers in arms, patriarchal manhood. Then there was the natural woman. Aretha Franklin's body lay not in state, but on display for 4 days, too, open casket, so fans of her musical greatness could stand in line for hours, not to be seen, but to see her and thank her. There was no hypocrisy in that line. Every person genuinely wanted to be there. Skillful diva to the last, She had left specific instructions, too, so she would give them a good performance. The undertaker was kept busy changing Aretha's clothes 4 times during the viewing. She wore bright red to honor black sorority sisters on the day they came, then switched to ethereal blue, then silver white, and finally glittering head-to-foot gold. Designer clothes and designer stiletto heels to match. They wouldn't hurt her feet now, including red-soled Christian Louboutins. The cortege was pink Cadillacs, and the music at her funeral was performed by a staggering roster of great singers. Oh my God, what a concert! Bill Clinton spoke with the humble, shy adoration of a schoolboy, and Hillary, bless her, clapped and did that white woman sway to the music, managing, like most other white people present, to be cheerfully offbeat, no matter how hard she tried. This was an event alive with, in all meanings of the word, color. And this was a woman-centered event. People spoke about love and laughter and tenderness, about art, about justice. They truly mourned their loss, openly weeping. But they also stood at their seats and in the aisles, singing, shouting, testifying, embracing, celebrating. The service went on for over 8 hours. Nobody wanted to leave. There was spontaneity, history, art, grief, and yes, joy. The coincidental timing of the 2 funerals made for one of the most dramatic contrasts I've ever seen between patriarchy and what we're striving toward. Not matriarchy, though she was proudly a matriarch, but equality. And for this artist who had come so far from the pregnant little 12-year-old girl she had once been, amazing grace. And RESPECT, respect. Thank you, Aretha. Those are my fighting words. Add yours on Twitter, and be sure to tag us at WMC Live and use the hashtag #FightingWords. And that's our show for today. You can follow me on Twitter at @TheRobinMorgan and on Facebook at facebook.com/TheRobinMorgan. Check out my blog at robinmorgan.net and find my latest book, Dark Matter, wherever books are sold. Opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the Women's Media Center. Here's the family for our show. Executive producer as well as founding and sustaining sponsor, Regina K. Scully. WMC president and co-executive producer of this program, Julie Burton. I'm Robin Morgan, your producer and host. Thank you for being with us. Join us again next time on Women's Media Center Live.